Vince Reddy here. Happy New Year's and hope everyone is doing good. I know that I have a lot of big plans, probably some changes for this channel. But other than that, during New Year's, literally like during like the beginning of well actually no, like the literally the last day of 2022, I celebrate by watching a movie, being Avatar, The Way of the Water. And the thing is that the moment I really think about it, especially when it comes down to Avatar, I rewatched the first one. I didn't really have enough time to rewatch actually the first Avatar, but there's something about Avatar, this Avatar, and that. And if there's one thing try to do with these reviews, is that I try to give you and picture an idea for you guys. So you can definitely see where I stand in some of these because these are my thoughts and all that. And like I always think about the future. I always think about like especially 2020 like tree and something like that. There's just a ring to that word or that number where it's like, yo, we are living in the future. And Avatar itself is sort of like I see it as like a future sense, because these are basically aliens that are blue people that are just within their own native land in their own planet, and it's like I kind of like see some kind of like futuristic sense to it, even though it's not, even though like some of the tech is expected in some cases, or at least from the humans. But for this one, like I just sort of felt that, especially going to the movies and just feeling like that there's something to witness more than what this year has to come, and it just feels like I just entered a new world or something like that. I don't know. It just opened my eyes, and when I think about that, going to like the movie for New Year's, I never thought it would just like. And you could tell that I haven't really been going out much, so I just want to point that out. But man, I really enjoyed Avatar: The Way of the Water because it's as expected. Of course, people are glamorizing about, oh, the water's beautiful, oh, the movie's visualizing and stuff like that. And of course, as expected, it is. But the story and the idea how this is basically a passion project by Cameron, but in a way where it's kind of like been this long, because here's the thing. 2009, I believe, was the first Avatar. Now, here we are in 2022 slash 23. And pretty much like at this point, that's like a decade, almost half a decade or somewhat of a decade. It's a decade. And that's a long time ago. Like I was probably still a fetus back when I watched this, but that was a long time ago. Now thinking about it, because man, I really, I forget some parts here and there when it comes down to the Avatar. But thank goodness I had have enough, like And one thing I noticed within watching the first Avatar, at least a bit of it, and then watching this one, it connects. It still connects. Nothing been forgotten, which is something that is expected. But I really didn't expect to really come this late, because weren't they supposed to have like an Avatar back at that during that time? Like I heard it was one of the highest grossing movies, and here we are, in this year, decade later, as this movie comes out. It's just crazy to me. But then again, it was worth it because I can see how they masterpiece this movie into oblivion to make it something special that the director really created. And it's this whole world that we're living in, that basically Pandora. It's he made it in a way where it's almost as if we're living in that world, because there's many layers, because Pandora is a freaking planet, and there's many arcs in different areas to the planet. Like we saw the water people. Are we gonna see the desert people? Are we gonna see different areas of the people, like the lava people or something like that? Are there different peoples, different tribes, like we saw within the water people of of Pandora? The Tari, or whatever the tribe names. Basically I either call them Avatar. There is a name for it, okay? Because I'm not really that in detailed of the world of Avatar. I haven't been in decades. So I'm just going by of what they look like and what it seeks. And here's the thing, I've been really enjoying these movies when it comes down to indigenous culture. Now, Avatar is a made indigenous culture. Some of it is half, Native and African, and also some of it is like, especially how they filmed this in New Zealand. So I see a bit of Maori, Polynesian culture within that movie. But for this one itself, like they implemented like a made up, tribe, but in its own way. Like I felt that too from Wakanda, even though these are real tribes. For these tribal kind of movies, the native like I don't know, it feels like a trend that is going on, but they do it so well of showing that where it's like a real tribe or a made up tribe. The tribe within Avatar, like especially how glamorous it looks and how beautiful, like the whole setting, like everyone just looks beautiful. These blue people are just beyond beautiful and they're because they're tall and stuff like that. And especially how strong. And seeing this as well, because I'm gonna try not to spoil it, this movie itself has like a like it brings inspiration to me as a person that wants to make a movie look good, and this one looks so good. Not just the water, and but also the creatures, the big whales, and also these different creatures, the flying fish or something, especially the jellyfish, where you touch their like hair or something and to just get air. There's some stuff that I would like to make sense, but it doesn't need to because it's kind of like it felt like the world itself. And you never seen those movies where personally for me, as I see it, the world is already established. It's been established for years, so there's sort of some build to it, as time goes on to improve, especially what the people looks like, even though they kind of look the same. Their bodies and skin from what they look like is sort of created and made for the water, like how the forest, tribe being, the main characters are actually made for to be part of the forest. And we saw Jake Sully back and still have that attitude as I remembered back in that, the first Avatar. And I kind of see it, and especially how he's more independent, how more he's responsible and as a father. And there's these things that, if you're a father, you would understand, like how most of his decision and what he does is very important, especially the Natari, having the role to be a mother for his own children. And a lot of kids, especially like I didn't expect this many children to actually, that Sully now has to, be responsible for. Like we see these, different kids that have different motives, and I kind of see some tropes behind these before, but it was already good enough to know that a lot of it was put to the test. And there were some tropes, like it's definitely you can tell that within their age. I don't know if that's in purpose that the director uses these tropes like to show their age, like especially that scene. And one character that really interests me a lot is I forget who the doctor is. There's this redhead doctor that has a daughter, and basically is now part of like in the family in a ways. So it's kind of like Sully's daughter, but Kitty, yeah, that's her name, Kitty. And Kitty just is a much more like a weirder sense of the character, and she has like this certain power within her, magic. And it and especially how she got picked on really is sort of like a very high school kind of feel to it, getting picked on by the water, tribesmen's kids, which I thought they were getting along, but I guess some teams took too far, and you see the brothers actually taking a fight with them. And it's one of those scenes where it's just like, okay, I see what's going on here. These are just kids. So I really enjoyed how that concept really brings out through the movie. And I'm not gonna analyze everything, knowing that it's a pretty long movie. It didn't really feel like it. It didn't feel like a long movie because it felt like a good amount where I can just relax and just see it through, and there's many things that to progress and how it takes its time very well. And it doesn't feel either rush or long. It just felt the perfect amount. Now I can tell it is long because that's when my legs are like, oh gosh. And I think that's the thing when it comes down to movie theaters sometimes, is that you really feel your legs like, oh man, what has happened to my legs? I was like, and then I realized like, oh yeah, I've been sitting here for 2 hours. but at the same time it doesn't feel like it. It feels like there's still more with this, from the people, from the tribe, where the place that they're at. And I was really hoping to see back in the forest, like, is everything okay in the forest? But I understand that, like, it's sort of like colonization. The movie is centered around that message about certain places getting colonized, or something more than that. And it seems like, especially for the enemy, like, this movie sort of surrounded the idea of fatherhood, and especially Spider's father being the enemy. And we saw this, Spider, especially, the human character, and how it blends in, the white kid with dreads, and how he's kind of like more of within the blue people than he is. Like, I don't even know why he's not in, like, the main picture or something. There was a part of me where I thought he was going to be the enemy too. Like, he was going to betray them all when the father is going to get too much comfortable. But that could happen, like, next, and I don't know. But, at the same time, it didn't. And that's not really much of a spoiler, knowing that for the whole entire movie, Spider did not get along with anyone except that a little bit here and there, and not here and there, but barely with, the father being the one that is trying to find Sully to what he did. And, the father is now like part of the blue people. He's now, his whole mind and idea and everything and who he is now pretty much within a new body, being, as you can see here, being the blue people, and from what I guess is part of the forest tribe, the usual avatar. But the main body, and also like what happened to him from the last movies, like, I still see a sense of that's true who he is now, when, especially how, what he looks like true this new body that he's in, trying to get revenge for, what happened to him. And there's definitely some part of this where I sort of felt the familiarities of, like, especially the first movie, Avatar 1, where they burned the tree. And now I sort of see this where they, like, invade the islands. They, get the, invade the whales by getting something that is worth like $80 million. And money plays a big role of just, like, a certain greed is played throughout this movie, which is, except, of course it's, you know, typical and mentioned, but it's something that I noticed that, yeah, of course it is, the greed itself. There's different goals that these, guys want to accomplish. One wants money, one wants to go back home, one wants to protect its family, and stuff like that. But my main focus of most of the movies of what I see is basically about the Water Tribe, and also from what I see, because then again, these are my thoughts, is how beautiful the movie sets up. And there's a lot of it surrounding the perfections of just like what these people look like. And also how, especially how it really adapts to well, not adapt, but it shares the message of family, of how ones that that you care for, they can care for you back. And I see that definitely true, especially then, across the ending of the movie, which I'm not gonna spoil. But this movie is definitely worth going to the movies for. It's definitely worth for me to actually see, and especially during a rainy day, I just had to see it, in full face value, because the theaters itself does more justice to actually, make you want to see it. It felt like an event. It felt like, it felt like an aquarium. It felt like one of the best aquariums that I've seen, let me tell you, because the water and the fishes and the creatures and everything was definitely worth it. But the characters itself was also worth it. One that is fearless and, wants to be better as its brother. One is being the big brother. And of course, Kitty being, the weird sister that I see some magic and some melody through her, as she's controlling the fishes and stuff like that. And more than what I've seen, especially, I never felt this beef between, like, the other characters as well. I know they were gonna get along somehow, but the tribes, kids, which I don't know who their names are, it's like four or three dudes and also one girl, that, the, as you can see here, in this picture, this lady here that's a lighter blue is with this, other person being Sully's son. And I can already see like what's gonna happen within the future. They're gonna get married, and yada yada, and stuff like that. But then again, there's like death scenes in this movie where you don't know where it's gonna go and who's gonna, what. I'm not gonna spoil it, but there's certain like points in this movie where it leads to something. And there is also what I noticed. There is Spider right there riding on a. I didn't realize he would ride that fish thing. I thought it was an avatar. It's like he blends in so well with the avatar people. It's kind of crazy because he's a white dude with dreads and just like you can definitely tell he's human. He tried to bring his old air within the air that he cannot breathe in the forest. So yeah, you see some of it. But man, this movie is it's just crazy to witness this during this time as I'm alive to actually see it for myself because it is a masterpiece. It is something big, and it's a piece of the pie of what Pandora is. And I'm interested to see more of it. And I can understand how this movie is such a big deal. Some people putting a big deal visually into movies itself, like the story and the idea of just keeping a masterpiece something big. I can only imagine there's a bigger novel of this movie that the creators actually originally had, and now it's implemented in the movie. But there's still more chapters. This is just one of them. There's probably like 50 chapters, 70, 100. And there's still more to share because immediately when I actually typed in Avatar 2 on Google because I try to see when the movie starts, there was literally already a Avatar tree for 2024. I was like, okay, already? Jeez. Because of the money they made and stuff like that. I was like, I saw Avatar 3, a logo, a green logo, and it's like, okay, is this going to be in the forest again? Is this going to be somewhere else? Like, they're already setting this up, but man, this movie itself, what really impacts it is that because of the state of space travel and how NASA and how we're so connected more than ever, especially in space, and how climate change is a big thing, this movie itself really sort of made that, very prevalent visually, a big deal when I first saw it. At least to me. This sounds crazy talk. I get it. Some of you are like, what? What do you mean, Vince? But at the same time, I really felt that through this movie because it can be implemented through real life, true in this movie, because where inspiration is, it always lands to somewhere that like a masterpiece like this and many other arts. But other than that, yeah, that's just, my thoughts of the movie itself. I don't have a lot really, as you can tell. I try to maneuver a lot of my words to actually give it a lot or whatever. But you know what? It's all good. I just, want to give my thoughts of a movie that is so, I saw in theaters and I was like, yo, I really enjoyed it. I probably should stop. I'm coughing. Other than that, thank you guys, and I'll see you one love in the bees.